Hello, fitness business nerds. Today I'm so excited because I'm speaking with an absolute rock star in the fitness industry, Alwyn Cosgrove from Results Fitness. In this conversation, we talk about all things COVID, how he's evolved his business at Results Fitness as a result of COVID, how they're going to spring out of COVID into this next new chapter. He also gives his predictions for how he thinks the industry might change as a result of COVID. We also talk a lot of this conversation about the importance of building really great systems in your business to make sure there's consistency in the client experience. You know, he's a legend for a reason. Not only is he funny and charming and warm, but so insightful. And this conversation is just full of value-packed information. So get your notepad out and keep listening, my friend. The Business for Unicorns podcast is for fitness business owners who want actionable strategies to grow their business, take amazing care of their clients, and build a life and business they truly love. I'm your host, Michael Keeler, co-founder of Mark Fisher Fitness, and through Business for Unicorns, I'm a coach and consultant to industry-leading fitness studios around the world. Let's get started. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Michael here. Welcome to another episode of Business for Unicorns podcast. And today I'm so excited because I'm really speaking to a legend in the fitness industry, Alwyn Cosgrove, who, as you all know, is the owner of Results Fitness in Southern California. And funny enough, I've been in the same room as him, I think. I've met his incredible wife many times, but we've never actually connected. So I'm so excited for this conversation today. Let's just welcome Alwyn to the stage. Hello, my friend, and so good to officially meet you.
Legend is an old guy. I hate you already. This is a terrible start.
how about superhero fitness? You know, is that good?
Good works.
Superheroes are young and virile. You know, like, well, we'll give you that. We'll give you that edit.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Thanks for taking the time to come on the podcast. I'm just so excited to, get to know you a little bit more personally and just pick your brain about parts of your business that I know that you do so well. And what a crazy time to be speaking in. This last year has been insane. And I kind of want to start there. I've actually read, I listened to a few conversations you've had about how you all have navigated COVID during the last year at Results. But I want to talk a little bit about how you all are bouncing out of it, what you're trying to do next to kind of hopefully turn the page into this new normal we're going to be finding ourselves in the next 3 to 12 months.
When you hate those words, right? Unprecedented times and the new normal.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get through this together.
Exactly. So, I mean, what I'm curious about is not how you managed up to this point, but really, what are you planning to do next? And what are you also seeing in all the fitness entrepreneurs that you're talking to on a regular basis? How are they bouncing out of COVID and rebounding? The ones at least who've made it. So let's just start by talking about Results. What are you all doing right now to prepare yourself to kind of get through this next chapter?
Well, we're still very much in the low amount of opening phase. Like we're not at a big enough capacity yet, but it's we're fortunate is that we can restructure our systems and our appointment based thing. I mean, here's one of the challenges right now, Michael, is consumer confidence in California in particular has been just completely destroyed. The narrative is it's for all of us in the gyms. We understand it. I saw a friend this weekend. He's actually from Scotland, but he lives in Southern California. He doesn't go to the gym, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. He's asking me, how things were, and I said, it was tough during it. He goes, yeah, just everybody at the gym like sweating all over each other and breathing all over each other. I'm like, what? Where are these gyms that people think like we're all just in a
like it's a one big wrestling match or something?
That's not what happens. Like that's not what it is. That's not what we do. And in California, I'm sure it's similar in New York, a bar that they've divided bars and bars that serve food into two criteria. A bar that doesn't serve food can only be open outside at 25% capacity until 10 p.m. at night. But a bar that serves food can be open indoors at 50% capacity until whatever time they want. But there's no logic to this. There's nothing following it. And with both of those things in mind, we have a smaller capacity allowed to train at the gym than a bar can have outdoors.
Yep.
Right? That's the reality of the message that's being sent to the consumer. So our challenge is to overcome that. And the example I've given to all our consulting and all the entrepreneurs I know is that if I took you to like a New York City Irish pub right? And you just looked around, and I took you to maybe a Vegas nightclub or a Miami club, and you just saw the decor.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these places could be spotless, but the Irish pub will tend to have a lot of memorabilia on the wall, a
Yeah.
whole bunch of things. If you had to put the money on the line, which one was the cleanest, you probably choose the more Zen-like one, right? The more
More streamlined, less clutter.
So
Yeah.
one of our biggest things is we have to get consumer confidence back. Right now, you've got the client that would come back day one, lick the kettlebell, does not care. And you've got there's about probably in thirds. There's a third that are still scared. There's a third that will do whatever the governor says is okay to do. They think that they won't. I don't want to say that they're brainwashed. That's too strong. They believe in the authority.
They're rule followers. They want to follow the rules. Yeah.
What is allowed, and there's people who come back, whatever. What surprised me is who are in these thirds. Some of the young, tough athletes I had are in the scared group. And some of the older clients are just, I'm back, I'm ready to go. So I think it's consumer confidence. So a lot of what we're doing is we are using what we call, originally we thought this thing, you couldn't bring your mail in for 3 days because you could, COVID could come on an envelope, right?
Sure.
And we've learned more now, and we've learned that perhaps it's not droplet transmission, because if it was, outdoors wouldn't be any safer than indoors, right? The droplets would go the same range regardless. So it's still about spacing and making the client feel we've got ventilation, but we've moved to, we called it train in place. We had these little pods where all your equipment would be there. You didn't share with anybody. And now we've moved to what we call home-based training, where the bulk of your workout is going to take place in one area. If it needs equipment that can be moved, we move it into your area. And if it's something that requires you to move around the gym, we do that. But it allows us really well to really structure. We can actually train more people at once with one coach. And during the I keep saying the initial lockdown, California's still locked down a little bit,
Yep.
right? During the start of the lockdown, we'd moved from, I'm a pen and paper guy myself. And we wrote our workouts on Microsoft Excel, printed them out, and we'd record the workouts.
Yep.
So we were looking to move to using an app. So we rolled that out during the initial lockdown, and clients were using that at home. They had their workout delivered with video, and we've kept that. And now we have iPads at each station, and it's functioning as an assistant coach. Mm-hmm. Sometimes Frank Nash, I'm sure you're aware of, he used the phrase as a coach. You have to be a coach, not an exercise kiosk. People go, what is split squat? And you set them up, and then you go, because you got to be coaching. So this is the exercise kiosk. So now our pivot, I hate saying pivot, our has evolved to it's home-based training. They have a place where they do all their workout with an iPad, and it actually frees up the coach to coach and push people a little harder. Mm-hmm. So, and I hate this phrase too, but I'm going to say it. Some of this may have been a blessing in disguise, right? Because we're allowed to revamp some of our systems, and it's we've been open now. Next month it'll be 21 years.
Wow.
There's a lot of little threads in a business.
Yep.
If you're a new business and you could change your phone number, right? It's not a big deal. You can change everything. Like, you've been open 21 years. There's a lot of threads, right? It's very hard to change. So really what changed for us was the delivery system, but it's not a blessing in disguise. It was horrific and horrible.
But I think the phrase that also comes to mind is that necessity is the mother of invention, right? You had to. Your back was against the wall. You had to make these changes to go with the flow. But they're also proving to be really useful changes.
People kept saying, "I just want us to get back to business owners all over the world. But I just want us to get back to how it was last February." And I was like, "Was it really awesome? Like, it was everything. You wouldn't fix anything." It was, let's use this 15 days right now to flatten the curve and rearrange your business a little bit. Now it became 15 months, right? But I think one of the other things that I'm most proud of, I suppose, is if you thought of yourself as a gym owner and that was taken away from you, that's really hard as an identity, that just went away, right? And I think of myself as a fitness professional where I own the gym, I train people, I write programs, I present, I write books, I write articles, I have a membership website, and I do consulting. And these were just like my investments in the stock market, kind of. And the gym one wasn't returning. So I just moved my investment, my energy into the other areas. So if you only had, and multiple income streams is something that is quite important. But if you thought of yourself as, I'm a guy who owns a gym and I can no longer own a gym, they don't allow me, gyms are illegal. That could be hard psychologically.
Mm-hmm.
But I just saw it as one of my buckets of investment. And by investment, I mean my money, but also my time and energy. One of them wasn't returning, so I focused on the other ones. And two of them weren't returning. There was no groups, right? There was none of that happening either. Like that, two of my biggest roles in my life got taken away. But it's the phrase pivot is a pivot is just a change in strategy without a change in vision, right?
Yeah.
Just a different change in strategy. So, and the idea of using the app and this, like refining your programming, like what do we really need to use all these pieces of equipment? Is it really that much more effective than working with a couple of PCs? And the answer is no, it wasn't. It actually it's at least as good as it was beforehand, partly because of our increased coaching in the new system. So
Sure.
I'm confident. Our biggest challenge, I believe, is consumer confidence. I think that's the hardest thing to get back, and that's just going to take some time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really well said, Alan. I think there's so many great takeaways for our listeners there. I mean, I think framing this next transition, this next chapter of our COVID journey as rebuilding consumer confidence, I think is really smart, because then your job as a business owner or manager or leader in fitness space is to go figure out, well, where do we not have people's confidence? Right? Is it because our space is too cluttered? Is it because our programming puts people too close? Is it general cleanliness? Is it, what is it that you need to rebuild and then get to work rebuilding? I think it's a great framing for it. I also love that you shared that you use this COVID moment as a kind of blessing in disguise, or you were forced.
Sorry, I said that, everybody.
No, it's right. I mean, the thing I've heard so many people say over this last year is that, of course, this last year has been terrible on multiple levels. There's been a lot that's not good, and people are often hesitant to say, and there also has been some good. That sometimes when you're back up against the wall and you're really squeezed as a business owner, entrepreneur, father, friend, you have to change the way you do things. And some of those changes will be really necessary and could have only happened as a result of these circumstances. So the fact that you've paused and made some changes that have been really fantastic that you're going to keep, I think is really amazing.
Well, I tell the story you've probably heard it, and all your listeners have heard it, of the two shoe salesmen who go to the island, right?
Yep.
So one sees an obstacle and one sees an opportunity, right? But they're both looking at the same thing. And I would love to tell you that day one, I was like, ta-da, what a fantastic opportunity, right? And
yep.
And I think some of the COVID is very real, but it was very politicized also, right?
Yeah.
There's I don't think anybody can disagree with that. And the 15 days thing that was constantly getting extended, that got tough until I realized what myself is that I have to be in charge of me. I can't wait for the blessing from the government.
Yep.
And Dave Tate, actually from Elite FTS, he's a friend of mine, and we talked recently, and he said, knowing what you know now, if they had told you it'd be over a year before gyms in California could reopen, what would you have done? And I said, I quite honestly, I think I'd have closed and maybe reopened. I don't know, but I don't think I'd have kept going.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, well, that tells you that your systems and your culture are even stronger than you thought, because a year later you're still doing it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's a good way to flip it, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think we would. If we were told me it was a year, I wouldn't have bet on me. But yeah,
Yeah, it's a great perspective to have, because we've been in the same position in New York, is that, we're barely opened. We can do 33% capacity of classes and training. So we're not even doing classes yet. We're doing a fraction of the training we were. It's just not worth it. And we have no timeline for when it's going to happen. But to your point, because in many places, and that's also fascinating, because, like you, I'm talking to people who have gyms around the world on an almost daily basis. It's been such a different experience depending on where people are in this country and in the world. And in places like New York and California have been kind of strung along in these reopenings, another few months, another few weeks.
Some guys are, I think, you guys know Ben Fogel of
Yep.
I think he was open by May.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I know people
probably at the same time, and they just, I'll do consulting calls, and people are like, they're they're actually asking marketing and lead gen questions. There's no reopening or doing your business. They're back. So that's there.
Yeah.
And the cool part is, well, the frustrating part too is that I was on it's nearly a year ago now. At one point, the only gyms that were closed were, I think it still were New York, New Jersey, and LA. We're not allowed to open at all.
Yeah.
But there had been no outbreak. But the gyms were open all over. They were all over California too. Just was LA County they were closed. We would have the evidence if gyms were we would never want to reopen if we thought we really were dangerous places.
Of course.
I would be like, wow, we found out something, and these things are just we can't do that. But the verdict is in. Like all over the world, they're open and they're completely safe. And it's just there's a couple of states which are responding slower. Some people think that's a good idea. Not me. I disagree. But I think talking about the cleanliness, I know everyone's gym is spotless. If you're taking 10 minutes of your day to listen to a business podcast for gym owners, I know you're doing things right. But I have a phrase, black belt eyes. I came up through a martial arts background, and if you look, the kind of gym a black belt would want to join is not the place you would take your kid.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a different look, right?
Yeah.
One of our guys, Elias, who was my sales guy, Elias Scar, he's been traveling around the country visiting gyms, and a lot of them are restricted with hours. And he goes, you go in and there's a couple of light bulbs out, or there's a couple of boxes stacked up at the front desk. There's envelopes at the front desk waiting to be filed. And it just looks dirty.
Mm-hmm.
It might be clean, but there's a look because you could be slipping and you won't see it yourself.
Yeah.
Like you need fresh eyes to have a look at it. So like I said, I use that Irish pub versus, like Miami or this kind of Zen like nightclub or high-end lounge.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
There's a look and you want to have that look. Right? Yeah. You can no longer just have all your kettlebells on the floor. You got to get them on the rack. If there's equipment that you don't use and just stacks in the corner, get rid of it. If you find you really need it, buy a new one later. But it's just change everything about how you look and just understand everything counts. If there's a way to do this wrong, there's a way to do it right. And you just got to find that.
I think that's it. I think a big part of that is reconsidering your spaces and how your space builds confidence or reduces confidence and people's willingness to come in. One last COVID question before we move on. So certainly there's some short-term changes people have made in the business to just survive. Some of them have been great. Some of them are still temporary. I know some people who are still training outdoors and they don't want to keep doing that forever. Some people who are training in Zoom classes and don't want to do that forever. So certainly some changes in our industry are going to be temporary and things will go back to somewhat closer to the way they were before. But some people are also reflecting on how there might be real long-term changes in our industry and how we run our gyms on a regular basis. So I'm asking you to, get out your crystal ball and look into the future and tell me, what predictions are you willing to make about the way you see our industry changing maybe permanently as a result of this COVID experience?
So first of all, if I had the crystal ball, you think I would waste it on the gym business?
Good point. That's a good point.
Far cooler things with that superpower. Like the one thing that hit me is that in the beginning, we were like very much. Our lawyer told us like, don't go in the gym right now. Don't do it at all. Don't even film video there. Our guys were doing Zoom classes from their apartments and their houses. And I have a home gym that's pretty well equipped. It's just really leftover gym equipment.
Yeah.
I had a visible change in my mood when we started going back to the gym.
Mm.
Like it's this place, right? And the people are like, well, every time a new thing comes out showing that sadly unfit, overweight people are the ones most likely to have had problems with COVID. The reason some people beat it and some people are having a hard time with it is down to your immune system, and we know how to work with that. Exercise is a key part of that. And everyone will say something like, or not everyone, some people will go, well, you don't need a gym to do that. I'm like, I'm aware of that. However, that's how gyms came to exist.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not what people do, right?
Yeah.
So I think I think gyms will. I had a joke in the beginning that we're not going to be blockbuster. We're not just going to disappear, but we are going to have to evolve. You're just going to have to be better. I think restrictions on capacity will always be there. California is supposed to open up to 100% at June 15th. I don't buy it. it will be 100% if you can do this, this, and this, and this.
Yeah.
It will be the same as 20%. So in order to survive, your prices are going to have to go higher. In order to be able to bring that price to the marketplace, you have to be even better than you are now. So competition is going to get tougher. Your skill set, all the lower level gyms in our area didn't make it, which I hate seeing anybody lose their business. I hate people just see gyms go under and keep people's payments and not refund them. They don't separate it and go, it wasn't that guy. We just the reason we're all closed down is we don't have a spokesperson who's a high level guy, right? People have a perception of the gym business that's dirty and smelly, and it's arm day and butt day and it's sweaty and it's just, and you see some of the guys who've defied the lockdowns. None of them are the guys we would choose to be our spokesperson, right? Exactly. There's no like.
Yeah, most of the ones I saw on the news in May, June, July of last year were not people I really wanted speaking on behalf of my business.
I thankfully they like. God bless them. You stay open, you fight, do whatever. But
yeah, I love a good fight.
A gym owner who's refusing to close his gym, and then you're like, it's that guy, But we have to step up. So when the lower level gyms go under, the cream is staying. Now the game got a little tougher. Mm-hmm. So I think the standards have to get higher. I think remote coaching is here to stay. I've always done it. I don't like using the term online coaching. I've got one girl, for example, I work with directly. She trains 5 days a week, but it's maybe 2 with me, and maybe a third one in the gym, but she has a track workout and another workout that she just reports me times and heart rate. I've always been doing that, where I don't supervise every session. Even when I was doing this one-on-one training, I would train a bunch of clients once a week, and they would train a couple of times a week and tell me what they did. I think that is here to stay. And it may be people doing it on their own because of your capacity or because their personal choice. So I think everybody has to add that. And maybe as a hybrid membership, you come into Mark Fisher Fitness, you get 1 session a week with a coach, you get 1 on your own, and you do 1 at home or in the park, right? And we'll write the whole plan. And with that said, now the idea of my market being my demographic in my area, that's gone. I could easily get a client in New York, right? If remote coaching is here to stay. So now the whole world is your market, but also the whole world is your competition. Yeah. So I think the long-lasting change, we're going to have to diversify how fitness is done and the delivery system of that, which will really be irrelevant for some of the consumers. But the basic premise I'm taking is that if you're still open now, having been through this last 15 months, you are part of the top level of this field. The game just got tighter because the lower level competition, previously you could have been in the top 10%, and right now you're in the bottom 50% just because the field is smaller. Right? Yeah. So I think the industry is going to get it's got to get sharper, and we should never have been closed down because we should be considered as high level health professionals.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, Alan. I think we're actually really on the same page here. I agree that it's really been crappy to watch so many gyms close, for sure. In New York, they're estimating 30-40% will close, and we've seen so many of them. I mean, ones that have been around for a long time just couldn't make it, and that's been devastating. And because of that, the industry shrunk, competition went up, and I think we're all going to have to kind of, raise our prices because capacity is going to stay shrunk in some way. Which means you have to up our game, provide better service, have a better unique value proposition out there in the world. And I also
first-class flights costing more than coach is just because there's less people can take that.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. And I also agree 100% that some sort of remote coaching is also here to stay. We've done a recent survey of Mark Fisher Fitness ninjas, and pre-COVID we had about 1,000 active ninjas every single month, and now we have about 700, just over 700 online active every month. And most of those 700, we have a few in person, but not as many as before. And all the online ones we surveyed just about a week ago, and very few of them are anxious to come back in person. And almost all of them said they want to keep some version of remote coaching. For us, that means Zoom classes. And so we're looking at exactly what you mentioned, which is this hybrid, allowing people to use their memberships either remotely or in person. And I think that diversifying of our offerings will mean we're competing with more than just people in New York City. We're competing with everyone online, and there's no big company that hasn't gotten into this game. I mean, Apple's
Well,
the latest to
yeah,
be
and
competing for
that's
our
it.
attention.
Exactly. Like, you've got to offer something completely unique, because
Yeah.
like I think Beachbody doing it, we're doing like all their products, like P90X and everything. You get it for like $10 a month or something.
Yep.
Like I can't operate in that space. I can't give you that many options at that price point. I just can't. So I have to come at it from a different angle. And another thing that is interesting is I was talking to a friend back home in Scotland, and his wife had been doing some Zoom classes and some workouts at home and wasn't really around her gym or her trainer, and she enjoys it very much, but she didn't really get out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
So now she questions what they didn't deliver the results that they promised in the first place, because me not doing it is I'm not getting worse.
Yeah.
Right. So this exposes some coaches from before that you maybe you had the client had a false sense of your value, right?
Sure.
What I said is I also see the reverse, is that it wasn't just about the results for her, it was about the culture. Right. It was about being like it wasn't about this transformative physical experience. It was about she goes there and sees her friends and invests in herself for a couple hours a week. And I think that part is going to get even. You guys have an amazing culture. That part is going to be a difference maker. Like that's that you could put the way we train is weights and space,
Yeah.
right? That you could put that in your garage, but you will not outperform the results that you can happen inside our training gyms. But it's not. Yeah, hopefully it's our programming, but it's also the environment and that culture. That's going to be another thing that has to be super important.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and to your point, it's always been important. And I think you're right that after this year of extreme isolation and people working out on their own, it's going to be a big differentiator when you can create an environment that is safe, that builds confidence, and also is an environment that challenges people to get better results and push themselves and make friends and build connections. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the part, is make it clean, safe, but do not lose the effectiveness and the fun.
Yeah,
right. That's
for sure.
If you lose that, we're renting space for people to touch things.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's get out. Let's away from COVID for a little while, and we can spend the next maybe 10 minutes outside of COVID land, even though it's encompassed our world. Let's talk about this. So I know one of the things I've always looked to you and Rachel for is how you structure your team, create really clear roles, really clear responsibilities, really clear operating procedures and systems. So I want to just pick your brain a little bit about that. And then I'll start with this kind of very broad question. But if you had to pick, one or two systems in your business that are just the most important, that, results wouldn't run every day if these systems weren't in place and working well, what are they? And I'm asking this specifically on behalf of a lot of our listeners are relatively new fitness entrepreneurs, are still thinking about how to structure and grow their business. Many are people I know that I've talked to recently are restarting their businesses. And so when you're starting to build systems in your business, where do you turn first for the one or two that are just the most important to the operations of your business every day?
I think that for people starting out with that, it's hard to identify one, because they all work together, from answering the phones to meeting a new client to booking and to the training program. But the way I would say it is, if you're a single gym trainer or owner and you're doing a lot of the coaching and you're looking to scale up, then we have two parts to the client experience in that area, is the program and the experience of the training session. Now, I'm all for different personalities, but and I think this is probably a Thomas Plummer line at some point. You don't go to McDonald's on a Tuesday because Mikey's working, right? You go because it's a consistent product. Now, trainers hear McDonald's, and probably not at the level of your listeners. Trainers hear McDonald's and they see fries and junk food.
Sure.
Where entrepreneurs and business owners see this seamless behemoth of just a corporate machine.
Yes.
Right? That you go to Moscow and get a Big Mac. It's the same as if you go to Scotland.
They produce effective, consistent results and experiences on a global scale. And there's a piece of that we want in every business.
Yeah, that's exactly. And they even tell you the recipe. It's 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. And then I'll ask at seminars, has anybody here ever had a McDonald's hamburger? And of course, every trainer lies. No. Have you heard of it? Then they'll confess. Can any of you make a better hamburger than McDonald's? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, why is no one giving you millions of dollars for your hamburger? Because it's probably not consistent, and it's probably not the hamburger, it's the systems, right? So I try to make it that in the beginning, the client experience has to be about them and their program, not who the coach is, right? So if I have a young coach, I can hand them a workout and go, do you know these exercises? Do you know the reps? And do you know how to correct it? You don't need to know why we're doing a lunge just yet. You need to just know how to do a lunge. We can teach you why in the programming later. And then taking that as a step further, the program writing, it should be written on a checklist. A system is either a checklist, a template, or a script. It should be written on a checklist or a template, so that if you gave me the same client, if you gave me a 45-year-old beginner overweight male who wants to lose 10 pounds and run a 5K in 3 months, and his functional movement screen is the same, that program should be the same. And when I first started doing that, it wasn't.
Sure.
Like I could disguise it, and I could give you some of your coaches all over the world. I can give you like a change a name or a change something, but really it's the same program, and they would write something different. And I'm like, both of them were good, but we can't do improv. We have to have a system. Like we have to be we have to be the Blue Man Group, right, in Vegas. When one guy's out, somebody steps in, and it's a seamless experience, right? That's how we have to do it. And yeah, you still have your own personality and you're still your own energy to it, but it is not about you. It is about the client experience, and that part has to be the same. If you can do it better than me, and this is what a young coach will think, I could do it even better than that. But then that's how we're all doing it. Yep. Right? We're not saying it's to do it my way, but in the beginning, the only reason I need staff is because there's too much demand for my way. So that's going to be our baseline. If you have a better way to do it, I'm all ears. But we're all doing it. We're not having a different class.
Yeah, I'll say this, Alan. I think this is so important. This is one of the things I see so many gyms just get wrong right off the bat. Is they base their gym on this kind of cult of personalities, and all the clients rally to specific trainers. When that trainer goes, they go, and when they're gone, no one can take their place, and you're constantly stressing about whether that person's going to stay or go, and you have to hire the next superstar, as opposed to what you're talking about.
It's really terrible for the gym, but that's a low level thinking trainer who wants that either.
Yeah.
Because when they leave and try to scale, they've already created that no one can do it like them.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have a high priced manual labor job at some point, right? They can't even be promoted within the system because they've tried to create and it's often the gym owner's thing that you can never get a bike in Sally's class. It's the hottest class in town, right? And Sally's whole identity is based around being the most popular coach, right? And Sally hurts her knee, right?
Yeah, it corners everyone. It puts everyone in this corner where it doesn't allow them to continue to grow, and it doesn't benefit the clients either. If they're stuck in only one way of working out with a specific person with a specific approach, then it limits them by not being able to invest in the system that's consistent rather than the person.
If you can't explain to me what you're doing too as a coach, you truly are, and it may be completely innate to you. It may be this complete art form that you're a phenom, which I've never seen in this industry, right? I've seen talented people, but there is a skill set, a learnable skill set to this, and it has to be teachable. And I think that that's your real role as a coach, is to create other coaches, or to empower clients so they no longer need you as much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's this girl I was talking about earlier, that she can outperform most people you've ever seen in terms of athleticism. And she's not with me because I'm stronger than her, right? She's with me so that the insight that we bring to things together, right? There's an autonomy, there's input from clients at some level in the program. But I become irreplaceable because I'm replaceable, right? Because I have no trying to keep secrets or anything. But I want the client experience to be a system. It's not fair if you got bad news this morning, right? Or you just had a rough night's sleep. If that changes the client experience, that's not fair. We can't afford to do that. So I would say start with what does the warm-up look like? What do you say? How do we cue the next exercise? And yeah, again, I want personality there, but not at the expense where the client experience becomes different. That's not how we scale. Like systems are an acronym for save yourself stress, time, energy, money, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's so smart. Focusing on the client experience, making sure that it's scalable, that there's a system for it, and it's not based on personality, or it's not happening at the expense of your mood or attitude that day, but it's consistent. With that McDonald's inspiration of making sure that everyone's getting the same experience no matter where they are, who they're working with. And I think the core thought that really sticks with me about what you said is that that really being in this space is about being a servant to your clients. So they have to be at the center of the experience. And when you can design them at the center of the experience, then you can scale the business and grow the business and create more opportunity for people. So that leads me to my next question, which is, can you talk a little bit about how your team is structured? How do you structure your team at Results in a way that allows them to be interchangeable, as we're talking about, where it's not about any one person always having that 5:30 spot that they can move around? So how do you structure your team in that way?
So the first part is you have to explain it to the members that we work as a team here.
Yep.
If your time never changes and my staff never take a day off or a vacation or move their schedule, you're going to end up seeing the same faces. However, because that's unlikely to happen on any level. Like we work as a team. Because we have a program design team and we have a coaching team. So often the person that writes your program may not be coaching you, and often they will. But this idea is that we have it's the entire support team. Like if you're going to the Olympics, you have a skills coach, a strength and conditioning coach, perhaps a nutritionist, a physical therapist. There's a whole team working for you, right? So my whole team you're our athlete, Michael, and our whole team are going to support you. And I go, so depending on what you need, you'll be working with different people. Right. So depending on if your goal is we at one time had a really, really strong, it's stopped now with COVID, with the obstacle course racing community. We had really strong teams. I had a coach who was really into that. That's the best choice.
Yeah.
We've got a strong powerlifting community. Craig, who's our head coach, he's the guy. Now, all our guys can do it, but as your interests change, we have better choices for you. As if your program gets delivered to you, bang, here it comes on the app, and then you make your appointment, and whatever coach is on the schedule at that time is your coach. So it's all about the client, right? It starts with thinking about the client and building the support team around them, so that my team are all irreplaceable and all interchangeable, right? I got this from the Reed Hastings book on Netflix.
Sure.
We are not a family. Family breeds a little bit of entitlement. We're a sports team, and we're continuously looking to upgrade our team. Now, if you're a superstar, you have nothing to worry about, right? But you just have to be a superstar, right? Yep. But our idea is, and this is another key mindset shift. If you are irreplaceable, you don't fit within my system. Therefore, you are completely actually expendable, because I can't have an irreplaceable person. I want them all to be irreplaceable, right? But if one person, who's working this morning? Christina and Jonathan were working this morning. Hey, if Jonathan is sick or he has to do something, do we just cancel clients? No, from somebody else. So it starts with the client experience, and then your job as a coach is to serve that, right? So that's how we build our team. Our front desk, we call them the We Got Your Back team.
Sure.
Right? They're for everyone else to explain. They're the front desk. They're the front line. They're the people who meet every single client on all shifts that you won't maybe meet them as a coach. Or we call them the We Got Your Back team, because they got your back. Anything you want, they do it. They are as important as my programmer. They're as important as my coaches. They make shakes. They book appointments. They sell supplements or things of that nature. So everybody has their role, right? And we have our sales. We had our sales department with Elias. It's the key thing is that this is getting on a NASCAR car, that Formula One car, and we all have our role. But the most important thing is the car, the client, right? We're not like, I'll do the front left wheel. It's the best one, right? That's not. It can't possibly work like that, right? So and really so to take it back, it starts with a culture of understanding this about the client. I've hired some clients to be trainers, and the conversation sometimes goes something like this: hey, you'd be a great coach. You've been working out here for a while. You understand all the exercises. You've got high energy, and everybody else loves you. You could think about being a coach. They'll say something like, "Oh, I'm not in my best shape right now."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what makes you think it's anything to do with you?
Yeah.
Right, like your ability to do chin-ups. Like, how did you think that was part of what I said? Right, that's like I wouldn't be as blunt as that, but I'm like, it's about
Sure.
self. It's about you're a black belt to somebody who's a white belt, right? You don't have to be an 8th degree master to teach anybody. You just have to know more than the people behind you. But so building these roles and bringing them together is just creating this culture which is all about the client. That's the magic. Like, that's the secret part.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I love that you started with that kind of setting expectations with your clients. Make sure if you're going to train them as a team, that they understand how that works. That we all, that analogy of a NASCAR car, or even just being a team. It's like we're all going to serve you together. Like, you're going to the Olympics. Some people are going to design your programs. I'm going to make sure you're showing up on time and get you supplements. Some are going to be coaching you. And I think setting expectations with clients that that's how you work, I think is a big part to making that model work. Let me ask you this though, because I think another piece where I talk to entrepreneurs all the time where they get hung up is they design a great customer experience, they have a great team, but they struggle with quality control. They struggle with accountability. They struggle with making sure everyone's showing up and actually playing their part and getting that tire on in under 3 seconds.
Yeah.
They struggle with that kind of management of a team that's running like this. So can you just talk a little bit about what do you have in place to make sure there's real quality control and accountability over time with your team?
So everybody's programming gets audited, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how we do it. So we have it's been a little weird recently with different lockdown restrictions, but we did a staff training every single week, right, for our coaches. And it's something we want to teach, but we'd case study somebody, we'd troubleshoot somebody. And like, would you do anything different? Like, if I taught this exercise, would you do anything different? And what will tend to happen is, organically, I don't want my trainers to compete with each other. I want this seamless team. However, organically, things will move. People will be getting better results. You keep seeing, dang, Sarah's in shape, John got in shape, and it's one coach all the time. Now, they're doing a great job, but it means somebody else is maybe not doing a great job. So it can become self-evident when schedules are moving. And you're like, I was doing a consulting call with a girl in Pennsylvania, and she was saying that people keep moving off of this guy's schedule that works for her. Now, all right, we got to do training. There's a reason that if the client is, if it matters to the client who the coach is, he's doing something different, right?
Sure.
So we have to train it. So the auditing is staff training all the time. Like, that's the key part. But again, it's cycling back to a culture of who's the person that I hired. Are they driven to learn? Is one of their core values to continue to learn and improve and seek feedback, right? To not be defensive, to be open. So it's almost like it becomes full circle. Is it's easy when you got the right people,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
And they're all in their own type of when I'm not around and another coach says to a new coach, hey, that's not how we do things here, or a client says that to a new client, here's how things work here, then you've got magic. Like, here's how it works here, right? It has to be something bigger than I can control myself. So my answer is, it is a constant auditing of programs and workouts, but it happens, you're not in trouble. This is how you seek growth. You should be excited to be, what do you think? Here's my new program. Is it a masterpiece, right? Like, you should be excited to do that. So it kind of circles back. How do we check it? You need formal checks and balances. We don't just have a free-for-all system, but it starts with people who are hungry and want to learn. Like, I'll go up in the middle of a session and ask the coach to explain to me why they're doing this, and the clients love it. They're like, because the coach will. I don't ask them anything that they're going to be embarrassed about, right? It's always the answer to, right? But it's that's the idea. It's like, did you have the wrong? Like, I heard you say a couple of weeks ago, if you can't get your profit margins in the right place, it often comes down to a horrible lease, right? One thing. Like, I'll tell you, if I have to audit and make sure people are doing the right things, it comes down to I hired the wrong person in the first place.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a great place to start. Is like, if you really want a team that's going to follow your systems and deliver this client experience that matters so much, you first have to pick the right people. And then I love that you're saying that there's also a combination of making sure there's a culture where they all can hold each other accountable and say, hey, that's not how we do things here. And there's also a formal system, checks and balances, where we're checking in and auditing your programs or auditing your performance, giving you real feedback, quizzing you and testing you on the fly. All those things matter.
Our employee reviews, we do what we call a 360, and
Yep.
we're doing them every 90 days. It's been a little different recently,
Sure.
where we actually only grade you on our core values at Results Fitness. I don't say like your ability to teach the squat. I'm like, bring your best. And I ask you to grade yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. And then I ask your teammates who interact with you to grade you, and I grade you, or make myself and Rachel grade you. And all I'm looking for is a discrepancy.
Mm-hmm.
If you think you're killing it and we don't, or you think you're not doing a good job and we think you're killing it, like, don't focus here. Right? If I've got the core values in place, if I got the values in place and the vision aligned, then everything I can teach every exercise in the world to anyone.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think one of the things I'm hearing you say is that there's not just one way to keep your team on track. There's these 360 reviews. There's ongoing team meetings where we're doing workshops and things on a regular basis. There's individual audits. There's making sure you're hiring the right people in the first place. And so I think, for our listeners, I think it's important to recognize there's not one magic bullet. There's not one magic thing you're going to do to make sure your team is constantly performing well. It's going to be a series of things that continues this constant gentle pressure of pushing them in the right direction. And I think that's important. And it evolves over time, just like I'm sure this last year, it's been pretty different.
I'm sure you have Peak by Chip Conley.
Yeah.
So his idea is that with Maslow's hierarchy of needs as it applies to the workplace, that the base expectation and compensation has to be there. People be broke working for you. But after that, it's never about
it's never about that.
It's about eventually this like recognition, and recognition can look a lot like increased responsibility, right? Like it can look like a lot like more work, but the final level is they have to feel like they're part of a mission, contributing to something bigger than themselves. So your audit is always in this direction.
Yeah,
right?
That makes sense. Right? So, that's why I love the fact that you said you focus really almost exclusively in these 360s on values, which are the hardest things to teach. You're either kind of aligned on them or not most of the time. Yeah. And it helps enforce this idea that you're really here because of a sense of purpose. Yes, you get a paycheck, and that's really important that we get that right. And you want to be driven by our mission and a purpose that we're all in this together. Yeah. And so that's why painting a vision, revisiting your values, those are things that people think of are like these academic exercises that people like us tell them to do, but they really serve a purpose to making sure that people are on the same page, driven to do the work that they do, and are consistently performing to this shared vision you've created. And that really is the model of a successful business, not just fitness, but any.
For a lot of our guys, they're full time with me, or it's their only job. Mm-hmm. Right? So whenever they're having like a hard time, like a client is pain or they're tired, I always point out like, what's your other job? And they'll remind me they don't have one. I'm like, oh wow. So essentially every item of clothing that you have and every piece of food and water that you've consumed in the last week started as a client payment, right? Just a little recess to remind how business works is you think I pay you. I don't pay you. Yeah. Right?
I don't have the money. It's them.
Because this is how it works. I'm a conduit, right?
Yeah.
So, but just understand you're here to serve, and when someone puts their physical goals in your hands and says, "Can you help me?" and that's such an honor. Mm-hmm. And don't take it for granted, right? It's an amazing honor when someone says that at any level of coaching, right? That someone's like that just. I treat it as a position of privilege, and I don't take my role lightly.
Yeah, well said, Alwyn. I love that reframing of who's really paying you, and I think reminding ourselves on a regular basis what an honor it is to be in this position is so important. Well, in the interest of time, I know we're going over a little bit. Do you have a few more minutes to do our final 5 questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could keep talking all day. I have a whole list of things. I'll have you back, and we'll do this again.
All day. You and I will be the only ones tuned in, though.
Yeah, that's true. But we'll do it again someday when we don't have to use half this time for COVID. We can dive into other conversations.
One day we'll have to remind people what that was.
Exactly. We'll do a remember COVID episode. I hope. Well, let's dive in. So the final 5 questions are just 5 kind of rapid fire questions I ask everyone on there, really about you and how to manage your world.
This is nervous.
Yeah. And to be fair, they don't really have to be rapid fire. You can take as long as you want. So here we go. Final 5 questions, Alan. One thing is the first one. Question number 1. What is one thing you love about being a gym owner? That's an easy one.
I love, on all levels, I love being a coach, whether it's with a client or coaching my team, that I can, like the biggest difference in my life is from a guy called Derek Campbell, who's my Taekwondo instructor. And I want to be him when I grow up. And I want to have some person think of me the way I think of him, that he changed the direction. I wouldn't be in the United States if it wasn't for him. I wouldn't have went to college if it wasn't for him. He just changed the direction of everything. And I feel like we used to have a saying in martial arts: a fight is when 2 people's lives intersect for a little bit and everything's different at the end of it, right? It's like you've seen the movie Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah.
I do a talk on the ripple effect of these instances that changed my life, and that we wouldn't be talking right now if little things hadn't happened in my life and or yours to have us meet here. Mine's just a little easier to measure because it involves moving countries, right? I can see the impacts. But that idea of a conversation with a client or an athlete or a coach, that maybe I'm going to change something. This idea every day that I'm going to do that. It's not going to happen by accident. That today there'll be an interaction that hopefully I'll make someone's life a little better.
Yeah.
Because of it, that gets me excited. Right?
Fantastic. Yeah, great answer. So, creating more ripples. Yeah. Question number 2. We talked a lot about this podcast about the client experience. And often when we talk on this podcast, I'm curious what people do to kind of really wow their clients and over deliver and get them to stay forever. And so what's one of the most memorable or the coolest things you've done to really take care of a client or over deliver for a client? Can you think of one as an example?
So I've been doing this a long time. There's a couple that stand out. I had a client, an athlete, who she was a high school volleyball player, and her brother bought her gym membership before he shipped out with the military, and he never came home. And I remember just talking to her one day, and I said, you've worked really hard. And she went on she became a high school stud, went on to be a college athlete, and ended up being a college coach, and just is now a wonderful, mom. And I told her one day, I goes, you made your big brother very proud, And I was invited to her wedding years later, and years after that, she showed me she had that engraved on the back of her iPod.
Wow.
And she just said that she goes, every day I looked at that, and she goes, and I just remember you in the middle of a set of box jumps telling her that, right? So it's probably I could tell you big stories of really helping a client or big results, but that's the one that when you said that jumped into my head, is that you're what at the time appeared to be a throwaway little fist bump line stayed with her for decades.
Yeah, I love that answer. Yeah, it's often those personal connections that we make with our clients that are the most meaningful things we do in their lives. So that's a perfect answer.
Just remember, guys, listen, like you're doing that all the time. You can't decide what's the big one. They decide what's the big one, right?
Yeah.
They've put their health and fitness in your hands, and it's a tremendous honor.
Yeah.
And I'll get thank yous for a blog post I wrote 2 years ago for some people. Like it's you can't be like, today will be a big one. I'm going to impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the one that sticks in my head because it was the story sticks in my head about her.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah. Cool. Well, question number 3. This one's about your team. It's that, when someone on your team does this, it makes you super happy. So when you see a certain behavior or action with someone on your team, what is the thing that just really lights you up and makes you so happy and so proud?
Two things that make me one that makes me kind of like be like, the end of the original Karate Kid where Daniel Wenzin looks and he's like just nodding in the
Yeah.
background.
Yeah.
When I hear like a line that I know they learned from me, right? They're like, I heard one of my coaches, Sarah, saying, we think of strength training as a cheat code. And she explains it better than I could explain it. This is a girl, right? So that one makes me smile because I think I can tell you who my Taekwondo instructor is and his instructor, right? We don't have that yet in fitness where we've got this lineage of people under us because the first generation guys are still coaching, right? It's not there. But that's those moments like that when I'm like, that came from me and you're taking it and making it your own. That gives me the butterflies inside. Right, and it'll be it's maybe not a quote, but they're the easiest ones to identify. Where you're just like, "That's my girl," or "That's my guy," like that's
it.
that's
Yeah,
the
because it fills you up with like they're listening. I can see my impact. I can see that's making a difference.
and I see it's helping. Like I can't coach that client, but they're being coached through me, right, at some level through Christina or Sarah or Jonathan. Like they're like that part. I'm smiling thinking about it. Right, that part is the cool part.
Yeah, fantastic. That's another great story. Awesome. Question number 4. We actually didn't talk much today about marketing and sales, but this one is about what is your most reliable strategy for generating leads? So if you have to go generate 10 leads tomorrow, what do you do?
So the obvious one is everyone goes, I get all my clients from word of mouth. I'm like, good, double that tomorrow. Well, you can't do that, right? So I'll give you the easy one is call 5 former members and check in, see how they're doing.
Yep.
And then call 5 current members and check in and see how they're doing. And
Yep.
just watch what happens. If you can't think of anything to do, write 10 ways you can serve the community and just start on them. And the universe will conspire to help you. Right? That does not mean we don't have a marketing system. But marketing, when we strip it all away, is you have something amazing and people need to hear about it, right? So you've got to be putting out content. You've got to be putting out, good quality stuff. That's your lead gen, your client acquisition. But if I had to quickly do it, I would go to my database of former clients and just be checking in. I think of former clients as an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, and you both want to get back together. Somebody's got to make the first move and reach out, right? You won't be a home run all the time, but every time I've done that, I've gotten 2 or 3 clients coming back in. And our other tip is when someone books an appointment to come in, I just say, and who would you like to bring with you? Just asking that, it changes their psychology because they're not wondering if there's someone to bring. They're trying to identify someone. So I can instead of maybe taking 5 people through an initial session, I may get 3 of those sessions shot with another person, and now I have 8 people.
That's it. Yeah, those are great tips.
Go deep into marketing, but there's my quick tip.
No, I love that. It's so smart. It's to go back and mine that list of ex-boyfriends and girlfriends, make the first move, get them back, make a list of how you can better serve your community.
Like the opening line at the bar, right? Do you come here often? Right? That whole idea is cross that threshold of no contact and create contact. Because if you get turned, this is the key part of like mindset of a business owner, that they're already not my client. I'm going to ask them, would you like to become my client? And the worst thing that can happen is there is no change. They're still not my client.
Yeah.
Right? But there still has to be bridging that gap where I have to eventually market and have to ask for a sale at some point.
Yeah, great. Yeah, the risk is so low. Just go for it.
You already got them as a client.
You already have the worst case scenario. So what do you have to lose? Awesome. Last one, question number 5. And you've already given so many great tips and insights in this conversation. So this might just be asking for one more. But what is one thing gym owners can start to do better tomorrow? What's something you can see people could, if they just instantly implemented this or started trying this, they can improve something tomorrow?
Just ask yourself, what would success look like? What do you actually want to have happen? And how do we make that, like, I use 10x, but I say, how do we make it 10% better? Mm-hmm. And it always comes back to how do we make it better for the client?
Yeah.
And one of our coaching group a long time ago, he used to do a 6-week membership for similar to Snatch program, like a short-term higher price program when the rest of the world are doing low price entry, low barrier, short-term beginner programs. You guys were flipping on your head and going a little higher price. And the response was always, I could never get that price point, right? I would say, what would you have to deliver in order to get that price point, right? Because you can get it. And start thinking like that. How could you offer a higher end client experience? Instead of trying to get the $21 for 21 days thing, the one thing a gym owner could do is, how do we make it even better? And what would the first class platinum version of this look like? And start offering that, and that'll elevate everything. Right, that idea of thinking up here and like it's the $10 haircuts, $9 haircuts, $8 haircuts. And then I open with, I fix $8 haircuts, right? And I take the whole market, right? That's could go higher end, be better, do the next course, apply the information. But one thing a gym owner could do, I think, from a business point of view is there's always a certain percentage of your membership that will want more of this.
Yeah.
And will pay more for it. There's someone who wants to fly the middle seat from LA to London to save $100, and there's someone who wants 2 first-class seats to spread out. Go after them. They're there.
Yeah, that's me.
That's me. That's me. I'll not eat for a week to have a bigger chair.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's so smart. I think that's a really great tip, though, because what you're asking people to change tomorrow is their mindset. You're asking them to change their perspective, their point of view, and say, just think a little bigger. What if you made that 10% bigger or more expensive or more efficient, and start to allow yourself and challenge yourself to dream a little bigger, push yourself and challenge yourself to grow a little faster. I think that's so smart.
One simple thing you can do, but it requires you rethinking your entire identity and moving out of your comfort zone. Because most people are like, I'm not good at asking for money. That's a lie, by the way. It's a self-worth issue you have. But if you go for even more money, it just magnifies that feeling of inadequacy, I suppose. That's the simplest thing you can do. Simple and easy are not synonyms. It's the simplest thing you can do, but it doesn't. It's easy. It's not easy. It requires some work to get that.
100%. Yeah, exactly. It is simple, but it can be hard for some folks. Yeah. Amazing. Well, that was it. You crushed these final 5 questions. So thank you for doing that. Such great answers, such great stories, such great lessons. So listeners, I hope you are taking notes, and viewers, I hope you are taking notes. Alwyn, this has been such a great conversation. I really appreciate your time and your passion and your expertise. I knew I'd have a lot of takeaways from this, and I was not disappointed. As we wrap things up, how can people find you, work with you, learn more about you? Where can they find you in the interwebs?
Probably the place I'm most active right now is, if just one spot would be Instagram, and that would be Instagram is just my name, Alwyn Cosgrove.
Great.
I try to answer all my messages that I get there and any questions I get. And we have our membership website, which is we just upload a whole bunch of any seminars I do get recorded and put there, is resultsfitnessinnercircle.com.
Great.
I'd love to see you at both of these, and thank you for having me so much.
Yeah, it was a real blast. Thank you. We'll include links to all those things in the notes below. So if you all want to go get some more Alwyn, you can go work with him directly. Thank you so much for this, Alwyn. I really, really appreciate it. Give my best to Rachel, and let's talk again soon.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you. Hey friends, before you go, just one more thing. If you enjoy this podcast, you get value out of it, you enjoy listening, please share this podcast, comment below. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Please share it with friends and family. We don't spend any money on marketing or advertising. And so the only way people find out about this podcast is from you. So please do everything you can to share it with friends and fellow colleagues in the fitness industry. We love making it, and we want to keep doing it for a long, long time. So I appreciate your support. Go have a kick-ass day. Bye.